I've never been one to scare easily. I live in a small apartment near campus, and most nights I'm up late studying, surrounded by stacks of textbooks and a half-empty coffee mug. It's not unusual for my phone to buzz with a notification at odd hours, usually a meme from my brother, Eli, or a reminder from a classmate about an assignment. But that night at exactly 3 a.m., when the screen lit up beside me, something felt different. The vibration against the wooden desk was sharp, insistent, louder than it should have been in the silence of the apartment. I rubbed my eyes, irritated, expecting another joke from Eli. Instead, my breath caught when I read the message. "Don't open the door, no matter what you hear." For a moment, I thought it had to be a prank. Eli was always the one who teased me, the little brother who loved to test how far he could push. But there was no LOL at the end. No emoji. Just the words, cold and simple, sitting on the screen like they'd been carved there. I stared at the text, waiting for a follow-up, but nothing came. The little dots that usually dance when someone's typing never appeared. The silence in my apartment stretched long and heavy. My first thought was annoyance. "Seriously, Eli? What kind of horror movie nonsense is this?" I whispered to myself. I almost laughed, but the edge in his words sank deeper the longer I looked at them. "Don't open the door, no matter what you hear." The way he phrased it, it wasn't a joke. It was a warning. I set the phone down, trying to shake it off. Maybe he was messing with me. Maybe he was tired from his EMT shift, or maybe it was some inside joke I wasn't getting. Still, a chill worked its way down my spine, settling in my chest. I hated that he could make me feel unsettled with just one text. That's when the first knock came. 3 soft taps, deliberate, against my front door. I froze. My eyes darted to the door at the end of the hallway, the one with the peeling paint and the old brass chain lock I never bothered using. I told myself it was nothing. A neighbor, maybe someone drunk who had the wrong apartment. But my body didn't believe my excuses. My heart started to race, pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed my phone again, my thumb hovering over Eli's name. Before I could type, another knock echoed, this one slower, like whoever was out there knew I was listening. My skin prickled, every nerve on edge. The apartment seemed to shrink around me, the silence pressing in. The only light came from my desk lamp, casting a small pool of gold that made the rest of the room feel darker, more dangerous. I texted back, hands shaking, "What's going on? Are you outside my door?" No response. Then the knocking stopped. For 1 second, relief surged through me, until something else replaced it. A voice. It slipped through the keyhole, low and urgent, almost a whisper. "Harper, it's me. Let me in." I nearly dropped my phone. The voice was Eli's, the same tone he used when we were kids, and he'd beg me to unlock my bedroom door after we'd argued. The same inflection when he wanted me to trust him. But I knew Eli was across town. I knew he wasn't here. My throat went dry. My first instinct was to laugh it off, to convince myself I was imagining it. But the words were too clear. My name sounded too real. I could almost feel the warmth of his breath on the other side of the door as he spoke. I backed away, gripping the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles ached. The phone buzzed again, nearly making me jump out of my skin. Another text from Eli. "Harper, I'm not there. Do not open it. Please." The blood drained from my face. I stared at the door where faint shadows shifted beneath the crack, something, or someone, standing just beyond. In that moment, the world narrowed to 2 things. The door that separated me from whatever was out there, and my brother's desperate warning glowing on the screen in my hand. My voice was barely a whisper as I muttered to myself, "This isn't real. This can't be real." But the truth was undeniable. Something was outside my door, pretending to be my brother, and it knew my name. When I think back on that night, I realize the warning text from Eli hit me harder because of how quiet my life had been up until then. I'd built this little cocoon for myself, a 1-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of an old building near campus. It wasn't glamorous. The walls were thin, the pipes moaned at night, and the stairs creaked under even the lightest step. But it was mine, my safe place. I'm Harper Lane, 27 years old, finishing my graduate degree in psychology. Most nights looked the same. Me hunched over my desk surrounded by books and notes, a cold cup of coffee within reach, and my phone buzzing with reminders or family group texts. My life wasn't exciting, but I liked that. It was predictable, controlled, something I could understand and manage. Except for Eli. My younger brother was the wild card. He's 24, an EMT, and the kind of guy who lives like every day might be his last. He's impulsive, a little reckless, but his heart is solid. Ever since our dad walked out years ago, Eli and I had this unspoken pact. I'd try to keep him grounded, and he'd make it his mission to protect me, even when I didn't ask for it. Sometimes I thought he took the role too seriously. Just a week before that night, he'd shown up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door until I opened it. "Eli, what are you doing here? You scared me half to death," I said, pulling him inside. He grinned, holding up a bag of takeout. "Saving you from another night of instant ramen and stale coffee." I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't help smiling. That was Eli, never letting me drift too far into my own world. He'd tease me, push me, but underneath it all, I knew he cared more than anyone else ever had. Our mom, Marilyn, lives a couple of towns over. She raised us mostly on her own after Dad left. She's strong, but she's also distant, the kind of woman who loves her children but has trouble showing it. Eli and I leaned on each other more than we leaned on her. That's why, when his text came through at 3 a.m., telling me not to open the door, part of me wanted to believe it was just Eli being dramatic, maybe even messing with me. He had a flair for the dramatic, no doubt about that. But another part of me, the part that knew how deeply he cared, the part that remembered all the times he'd shown up when I needed him most, recognized the weight behind his words. Earlier that evening had been so normal it almost feels unreal now. I was at my desk trying to finish a paper I'd procrastinated on. The wind rattled the windows, and the radiator hissed like it was annoyed at having to work. I was tired, anxious about deadlines, and completely unprepared for anything out of the ordinary. That's what makes it worse, I think. The way fear can drop into your life out of nowhere, like a stone smashing through glass. One minute you're safe, the next minute the ground is gone. Even before the knocking started, I felt something strange in the air that night. Maybe it was the way the building seemed quieter than usual, like everyone else had vanished. Maybe it was the way the streetlight outside my window flickered, casting long shadows across the room. I kept telling myself I was imagining it, that the stress of school was making me paranoid. But in the back of my mind, I kept hearing Eli's voice from earlier that week. "Don't forget, Harp, you're my big sister, but I'm still the one keeping you safe." I'd laughed at him. I always laughed when he said things like that, but when I replayed those words after his text came through, they didn't feel funny anymore. They felt like a promise, a warning. And when the first knock came at the door, I realized just how fragile my little cocoon really was. At that point, I didn't know what was outside. I didn't know if it was a person or something worse. All I knew was that the world I thought I understood, my safe, predictable apartment, my quiet little life, was already cracking. And the sound of my brother's voice, whispering through the keyhole when I knew he wasn't there, was the crack that split everything wide open. The first knock could have been anything. That's what I told myself. A neighbor who had the wrong apartment, maybe a package delivered late. But deep down, I knew it wasn't normal. Not at 3 a.m., not right after Eli's warning text. I froze in my chair, staring at the door across the dim hallway. My phone sat heavy in my hand, the screen glowing with his last message. "Don't open the door, no matter what you hear." Another knock came, this one sharper, as if whoever or whatever was out there had grown impatient. I forced myself to move, inching down the hall with each cautious step. The hardwood creaked under my bare feet, every sound amplified by the silence pressing in from all sides. My heart thudded so hard I felt it in my throat. "Who's there?" I finally called out, my voice trembling despite how hard I tried to sound firm. No answer. Instead, the knocking slowed. 3 measured taps, then silence. I gripped my phone tighter, thumb hovering over Eli's name in my messages. Finally, I typed out, "What's going on? Are you outside my door?" Seconds dragged. The typing dots never appeared. Then came the sound that made my blood run cold. A dragging noise, low and deliberate, like fingertips scraping across wood. It moved across my door from the knob to the hinge, slow enough that it felt purposeful. I backed up a step, every instinct screaming at me to run, but something about Eli's message held me there, no matter what you hear. I thought of calling the police, but what would I even say? There's someone scratching at my door, but my brother says don't open it. They'd think I was out of my mind. The scraping stopped. For one moment, I let out a shaky breath, thinking maybe it was over. That's when I heard it. A voice. It seeped through the thin gap of the keyhole, quiet but unmistakable. "Harper, it's me. Let me in." I froze, every muscle in my body locked. The voice was Eli's. Not similar, not close, exact. His tone, his inflection, even the way he said my name. My brain tried to find explanations. Maybe he'd left work early and somehow gotten here. Maybe he'd texted me before arriving. But no, Eli was miles away. I knew it. He always called if he was coming over, never just showed up in the middle of the night. "Eli?" My voice cracked. The figure outside shifted, their shadow moving against the thin strip of light under the door. "Yes," the voice said, so calm, so convincing. "It's me. Please, just open up." I almost did. For a split second, I almost reached for the knob, but then my phone buzzed violently in my hand, pulling me back to reality. Another text from Eli. "Harper, I'm not there. Do not open it, please." My stomach dropped. I stared at the message, then back at the door where the shadow lingered. The voice came again, firmer this time. "Come on, Harp, you know it's me. Just open the door. I need you." That's exactly what Eli would have said. The way he shortened my name, the desperation in his tone. It was him. It had to be him. But how could it be? Tears stung my eyes as panic set in. I didn't know what to believe. My rational brain screamed that Eli was texting me, alive and safe somewhere else, but my heart twisted at the sound of that voice. "Stop it," I whispered, pressing my hands to my ears as if that would block it out. "Just stop." But the knocking started again, louder this time. The door rattled with each hit, shaking the chain lock I'd only just secured. I stumbled back, clutching the phone like it was my lifeline. My chest heaved with every breath, and I could feel the weight of the thing outside pressing against me, as though it could sense my fear. The whisper turned harsher, more urgent. "Let me in, Harper. Don't you trust me? It's your brother. Open the door." I couldn't take it anymore. I hit call, dialing Eli directly, praying he'd answer. The ringing seemed to last forever, each tone overlapping with the pounding at my door. Finally, his voice filled the line, real, frantic, breathless. "Harper, are you okay?" I nearly collapsed with relief. "Eli, someone's at my door. They sound like you. They keep saying it's you." His tone shifted instantly to terror. "Listen to me. That is not me. I don't care what it sounds like. Don't open that door. I'm on my way right now. But promise me, Harper, don't look through the peephole. Don't talk to it. Don't open that door. Just stay away." The line crackled, his voice echoing in my ears, overlapping with the relentless pounding outside. I sank to the floor, back against the wall, knife-sharp fear coursing through me. The door shook. The voice kept calling my name, more distorted now, less human with every repetition. And all I could do was wait. Eli's voice on the phone was the only thing anchoring me to reality. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it was going to break through my chest, but hearing him alive, frantic, real, gave me something to hold on to. "Harper, promise me," he demanded. His tone was sharp, a side of him I'd only heard on rare occasions, like when he was dealing with a patient in crisis. "Do not open that door. Do not even look at it. Stay away from it until I get there." I promise," I whispered, though my eyes betrayed me, still locked on the door, as if whatever stood outside could somehow hear my thoughts. The pounding stopped suddenly, leaving a silence that was almost worse. My apartment felt like it was holding its breath, waiting. The shadow under the door hadn't moved. Whoever, or whatever, was there was still waiting for me, silent and patient. "Where are you right now?" I asked Eli, pressing the phone tighter to my ear. "Leaving the station. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Just hold on, Harp. You've got this." 10 minutes. 10 minutes had never felt so long in my entire life. I hung up, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. I couldn't just sit frozen, waiting for whatever was outside to make the next move. My whole body screamed at me to do something, anything, to feel less helpless. I scanned my apartment for options. The kitchen light glared at me from down the hall. I darted inside and yanked open a drawer, pulling out the largest knife I owned. The handle felt slick in my sweaty palm, but it was better than nothing. Okay, you've got this, I muttered to myself, pacing in tight circles. Stay calm, don't freak out, just wait it out. The silence broke again. From the door, that same voice drifted through, softer now. Harper, please, I'm cold, I'm hurt, don't leave me out here. I squeezed my eyes shut. It wasn't him. It couldn't be him. But the way it pleaded sounded so real, so human, that part of me wanted to throw the knife down and unlock the door just to end the torment. No, I hissed to myself. That's not him. Eli's coming. Just wait. But the voice was relentless. It shifted, growing desperate. Don't you remember when we were kids? You locked me out of your room, and I begged you to let me in. You finally opened it, and I swore I'd always protect you. Please, Harper, just let me in. The memories it pulled from my childhood made my blood run cold. How could it know that? That night from years ago was private. Just me and Eli. My hand shook so badly the knife rattled against the counter. Something was playing with me. Something knew me. I stepped back into the hallway, forcing myself to stay out of the door's line of sight. I grabbed the heavy chain lock and slid it into place, then locked the deadbolt for good measure. My hands fumbled, but I managed to secure them. You're not getting in, I whispered to the door, though my voice sounded far less convincing than I wanted it to. The knob rattled violently in response, metal clanging against metal. My whole body flinched. I staggered backward, pulling my phone back into my hand. With shaking fingers, I texted Eli, "It's still here. I don't know what to do." The reply came instantly. "Stay in the living room. Lights off. Don't let it see you." The words sent another chill through me. Don't let it see you. The implication was horrifying. Whatever was outside wasn't just knocking. It was watching. I shut off the lamps, plunging the apartment into near darkness, only the weak glow of the streetlight flickering through the blinds. I crouched low by the couch, knife in one hand, phone in the other, trying to control my breathing. Every creak of the building made me jump. I could still hear faint shuffling outside the door, like bare feet dragging across the hallway. And now, the voice was different, lower, more guttural. "Harper?" It growled, stretching my name into something monstrous. I pressed my palm over my mouth to keep from crying out. My body shook, adrenaline flooding every nerve. For the first time in my life, I realized that survival wasn't just about being strong or brave. It was about making the right choice in the moment, no matter how terrifying. Eli had told me exactly what to do. Wait, stay hidden, stay alive. So that's what I did. I crouched there in the dark, gripping the knife, every muscle ready to spring, praying Eli would arrive before the thing outside decided to stop asking for permission. Time became a cruel, stretching thing. Each second I crouched in the darkness felt like an hour, my muscles rigid, my throat tight from holding back every sound. I kept my eyes fixed on the faint light spilling through the blinds, too afraid to look toward the door again, but the door wouldn't let me ignore it. The knob rattled once more, this time harder, as if someone, or something, was testing the strength of the lock. Then came a scraping sound deeper than before, like claws dragging along the wood. The noise vibrated through the thin walls, and I swore I could feel it beneath my skin. Harper. The voice was no longer Eli's. It was distorted, layered, like two voices overlapping, one his, one something else. The sound chilled me to the bone because beneath the human tone was a rasp that didn't belong in this world. I pressed myself tighter against the couch, knife clutched so hard the handle bit into my palm. My phone buzzed again, the vibration so sudden I nearly screamed. Eli's message glowed on the screen. "I'm outside the building. Just a few more minutes. Stay away from the door." Relief flickered in me, but it was crushed instantly by a new sound. Footsteps. Slow, dragging steps, pacing back and forth in front of my apartment. I could hear the weight of them, heavy and deliberate, like they wanted me to know they weren't going anywhere. Then, without warning, The sound stopped. Silence. That was almost worse. I dared a glance toward the hallway, my breath caught in my throat, and that's when I saw it. The shadow under the door changed. It wasn't just the shape of feet anymore. It was wrong. Too tall, too thin, stretching in ways a human shadow couldn't. And it wasn't still. It pulsed, like it was breathing. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Then came the voice again, louder, pressed right up against the door. "Open it, Harper. Let me in." I bit down on my lip until I tasted blood, every part of me screaming to run. But before I could move, the peephole went black. Something was covering it. I remembered Eli's words, "Don't look through the peephole." But I couldn't stop myself. My body moved like it wasn't my own, my feet dragging me toward the door. My hand hovered inches from the wood, trembling uncontrollably. Slowly, against every ounce of reason, I leaned forward. The peephole was dark, covered by something on the other side, and then, with horrifying speed, the cover shifted. An eye stared back at me. Not Eli's eye, not even human. It was too large, too black, the pupil swallowing everything. The moment I locked onto it, my entire body went cold. My vision blurred, my head spun, and for a split second, I felt pulled, like it was dragging me through that tiny hole into whatever abyss lay beyond. I screamed and stumbled back, dropping my phone to the floor. The voice roared now, no longer a whisper, shaking the door on its hinges. "Let me in!" The chain lock strained. The wood groaned. I thought the door would splinter in, half. Just as the last bolt began to bend, headlights swept through my window, flooding the room with white light. Tires screeched outside. "Harper!" Eli's voice, this time real, human, booming through the hallway. The pounding at the door stopped instantly. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. The shadow vanished from beneath the frame. I rushed forward, fumbling with the locks, my fingers shaking too hard to grip. "Eli!" I cried, tears streaming down my face. "Don't open it yet!" he shouted from outside. "Not until I'm at the door." I froze, knife still in hand, listening. Seconds later, I heard his familiar knock. 3 sharp raps, the same rhythm he'd used since we were kids, so I'd know it was him. This time, I unlocked the chain and swung the door open. Eli burst inside, his face pale, chest heaving. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Are you okay? Did you open it?" "No," I sobbed. "I swear I didn't." His eyes darted to the doorframe. Deep gouges carved into the wood trailed from the knob down to the floor, as if something with claws had tried to pry its way in. We stood frozen, both staring at the evidence, the air thick with disbelief and terror. "It's gone," Eli said finally, though his voice shook. "Whatever it was, it's gone." But as I clung to him, I couldn't shake the certainty crawling through my mind. It hadn't left, it had only retreated, and it knew my name. Even after Eli arrived, even after he locked the door behind him and checked every inch of my apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that the thing wasn't gone. The scratches in the wood told me it had been real. The eye I'd seen through the peephole haunted me every time I blinked. And the voice, the way it had twisted my brother's memories into weapons, echoed in my mind like a bruise I couldn't stop pressing. Eli sat me down on the couch, his hands gripping my shoulders. His eyes searched mine, desperate, as though he needed proof that I was still me. "You didn't open it, right? Tell me you didn't." "I didn't." My voice cracked, but I forced myself to hold his gaze. "I swear, I locked everything. I stayed hidden, just like you said." His shoulders sagged, relief breaking through the panic etched into his features. For a moment, he pulled me into another hug, burying his face against my hair. I realized then how terrified he had been. Not just for me, but of whatever it was that had found its way to my door. When he pulled back, he whispered, almost like he didn't want the walls to hear, "I've heard about this before. Calls coming in during shifts. People saying someone was at their house, pretending to be someone they loved. They always say the same thing. It knows things it shouldn't." A chill coursed through me. "So this has happened to other people?" Eli nodded. "Not often, but enough. And it always tries the same trick. Mimicking someone you trust." His jaw tightened. "It wants you to open the door." I thought of the way it had begged, the way it had used our childhood memories like keys to pry me open, a violation worse than anything physical. "What happens if you do?" I asked, though I already feared the answer. Eli didn't respond right away. His silence said enough. Finally, he muttered, "No one who does is around to tell us." We sat in silence after that, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the faint rattle of the pipes. My apartment felt different now, no longer my safe little cocoon. The shadows seemed thicker. The air seemed colder. Even with Eli beside me, I couldn't stop glancing at the door, half expecting to see the knob twitch again. Hours passed before exhaustion finally claimed me. I fell asleep on the couch, knife still clutched in my hand. When I woke, the morning light was spilling in through the blinds, golden and soft, as though the nightmare had been nothing more than a bad dream. But the scratches in the wood remained, long, jagged grooves carved deep into the frame, evidence that something had been there, evidence that I hadn't imagined it. Eli stayed with me for the next few nights, sleeping on the couch. He pretended to make jokes about it. Free rent for saving your life. But I caught him staring at the door in the middle of the night, jaw clenched, eyes hard. He was afraid, too. Eventually, he had to go back to work. Life had to return to normal, at least on the surface. Classes, papers, coffee. Pretending like nothing had changed. But something had changed, because I still hear it. Not every night, not even every week. But sometimes, in the deepest hours of the morning, when the world is at its quietest, I'll hear it again. The knock. Soft, patient, deliberate. And sometimes, if I sit too still, holding my breath, I swear I hear my name whispered faintly through the keyhole. Harper. Every time I freeze. Every time I fight the urge to check the door. And every time I remember Eli's warning. Don't open the door. No matter what you hear. I haven't moved from this apartment. Maybe part of me is too stubborn or too afraid to admit how much it scarred me. But I've made peace with one rule. I will never, ever answer that door at 3 a.m. Some people ask me what I learned from that night, and the truth is, it's this. Safety is fragile. The line between the ordinary and the unimaginable is thinner than you think. Sometimes the person you trust most becomes the weapon used against you, and sometimes the danger that knocks doesn't want to break the door down. It wants you to let it in. So if you ever get a message like I did, a warning that makes no sense in the moment, believe it. Because the thing outside will know your name. It'll sound like someone you love. It'll beg you to open the door. And the second you do, it's already too late. And that's the night I'll never forget. The night something that wasn't my brother came to my door, whispering my name like it had always known me. I still don't know what it was or why it chose me, but I do know this. If you ever hear knocking at 3 a.m., if you ever hear the voice of someone you love begging you to open the door, don't. Because once you let it in, there's no telling if you'll ever make it back out. If this story sent a shiver down your spine, make sure to like this video so I know you want more. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if you got that message at 3 a.m.? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Because trust me, there are more. And some of them are even worse.